really want to focus on that aspect of it, of building a business and using international and exporting, and also, quite frankly, supply chain importing, because both of them have supply chains that extend overseas. And so international business for both the supply chain side and the sales side is integral to both of these businesses. And so we really want to focus on that today. The World Trade Center is our whole focus is connecting people and businesses to the rest of the world. And we do that through two programs. One, we actually implement a diplomacy program for the US State Department and do professional exchanges in a whole variety of different topic areas. And so we bring, between Sacramento and San Francisco, almost 1,000 people annually into Northern California, and we set them up with professional exchanges. And so that's part of the way that we connect Northern California to the world. The other thing that we do is really working with businesses like Sarah's Silk or Home Brewer Lab to help them do international business. And we're really what I would call a technical assistance provider. And that is that we really bring either people or resources or connections to the table to help people grow their business. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Sarah Lee. Sarah is the founder and the CEO of Sarah's Silk. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about Sarah's Silk, but a longtime entrepreneur, exporting. You've got business in 35 countries, 36 countries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fabulous story, right? And you have currently 20 employees?
Yes.
Right. So one of the common misconceptions is that you have to be a big business to be a successful exporter. And Trong and Sarah are both examples of the fact that you can be successful in international business and you don't have to be an Aerojet or an Intel or a Siemens to do that. And then we've got Trong, who is no stranger to the Carlson Center of Home Brewer Lab. He's also a serial entrepreneur. How many people in here remember Lebu, the restaurant chain? Okay, so Trong started Lebu and sold the company in 2018, 2019? Right. And so he pivoted from baking to brewing, which are really related topics. And so both of them have very interesting backgrounds. And so with that, what I'd like to do, and like I say, today, really what we're going to do is ask Sarah and Trong to share their experience building their businesses and how international plays a piece of that. And so first, Sarah, I'll start with you. Can you tell us how you got started exporting?
Sure. So I started making the toys about 30 years ago and selling them to toy stores in the US. And it was going really well. And I think about 5 years in, I thought, well, gosh, there must be toy stores like these toy stores in other countries. And I wondered how to find them. And that was pre-internet, but I kind of still use the same system nowadays where when I want to move into a new country, what I do. So I looked at the toy stores that were being successful in our product here in the US, and I saw what other brands they were selling and what was kind of the niche market that they were serving, like natural parents. And I looked at the other brands and I looked at where those brands were selling, what stores they were selling in another country. So like right now, for example, we're working on Greece. But I started on UK because it was easier, it was English language. And I found a couple stores that these colorful wooden blocks were being sold in the UK. And I thought, they're also sold in the stores that are doing well here in the US for us. So I took a few photos of our things with their things in the store. And I sent the photos to these stores in the UK. And I sent them a free sample. And I told them, I think our things would be great. And that was very successful. Then they made orders and we were kind of ignorant. Like we were just like, okay, we'll just send you them. And we did. And then we came into things like they needed certain safety testing and there were a couple, we had to get over a couple of different humps, but that's pretty much the way I've done it. I've also used social media a lot. Like then I will follow that store and I'll look at who an influencer might be. I send maybe an influencer some samples so that then that helps kind of support the store. And then we start growing an audience in that country and the parents start seeing the toys on social media and then they come directly to our Shopify store as well or go to our international Amazon list.
Fabulous. So why don't you take, and I should have asked this first, why don't you just give a very brief overview of what Sarah's Silk sells?
So we make natural toys for children. We started with just silk and everything was We made play silks. Just made squares of silk and children use them for imagination play. And then we started making silk capes and crowns and fairy wings, mermaid tails, and all of our silk things are made in China. And then we make cotton and wool dolls in India now and wooden toys in California. And my husband and I started 30 years ago. Now he's retired and two of our sons and their partners are working in the company. We've grown quite a lot. And we are very popular in the Waldorf and Montessori markets and with natural parenting community. We started just selling to stores, B2B, and then we opened an Amazon store of our own, and Amazon did really well, and now we've been on Shopify for us. We have two Shopify stores, one for wholesale and one for direct-to-consumer retail, and that's been about 6 years, and that's our biggest and best now is selling direct to consumer.
Fabulous. One thing I just wanted to highlight is the strategy that Sarah used for finding distribution. She looked at other, what I would call adjacent products to their product and said, this is a compatible product that most likely will appeal to the same customers that would want my product. That's actually a very sophisticated approach. And it's an approach that we try to get companies to use. Look for those adjacent products and markets, find who's selling those, and then try to match your product in. So that kudos to you for recognizing that very early in the game. Trong, same question to you. Why don't you do a very brief introduction of Homebrewer Lab, and then tell us how you got started exporting.
Yes, well, thank you for being here. It's always fun to have the opportunity to look back, a little bit of part of your life to see how things turn out. But I came to this country from Vietnam to go to school, actually graduated from Sac State in 1972 and went on to UC Davis to study genetics because from Vietnam, we didn't have any geneticists. So I got a PhD from UC Davis in 1978. But by then, we lost the country. Vietnam fell to the hand of communists, so I couldn't stay here. So I became a refugee. And I went to work in Washington, D.C., running a research lab. And then in the meantime, I had to take care of refugee brothers that migrate here after the fall of Vietnam. And I need to figure out something for them to do. So I started, create a little bakery for them to keep them busy. And of course, I thought I would do that for a few months and go back to science, but I was busy for like 30 years just building this. But I would never set out to be a businessman. I suppose somebody scientist, so along in the bakery, I'm always inventing new things to make things work better. And what we did was to selling a product called croissants. That was like 30, 40 years ago, which is not very popular in this country, but very popular in Europe, in France, and in Vietnam, because we used to be a French company. So in order to make that product, I had to travel overseas to look for the equipment to make laminated dough for making croissants. And because of that, I had this global perspective about how to build business. I'm always thinking what we can do. The world business to me is not just in Sacramento, Northern California, it's the rest of the world. So after I retired from business in 1918, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to learn brewing beer. And when I started doing that, I realized the way that we brew beer, or most people brew beer at home, is so crazy. So it takes too much work, so much time, so much equipment, so much energy. So I say, I got to create a better way of doing that. So I create a new way, and I have create a home brewer lab to teach people how to make beer. And by 2020, because of COVID, we couldn't do anything to teaching classes anymore. So we just at home. I make some products, and I say, well, maybe I should put on eBay to see what happened. And next thing you know, I get order from overseas because people overseas go on eBay to look at cool product and they order, and I ship a few products here and there. And by 2018, I improved. To 2021, I improved the product. I come up with version 1, and I sent it out to some people on Facebook group to test it. And one day, I remember very well, some guy did the test for a few months, and he put a post on Facebook that I say, John gave me this product. I tested it. It's so great that I really think it's the best thing. And then people start writing him and say, where do you get this product? And he says that he's attacked me. And I suddenly on one afternoon, like, go talk to Trong. And so people wrote me. I say, well, if you guys want to buy it, that's $25 and so much dollar shipping to the US and $15 to overseas. In the whole afternoon, I turn on my PayPal and I see just, you got money, you got money, you got money. People from all over the world just buying this thing. And I remember that day very well because that day, Russian invaded Ukraine, right on the middle of the war. So that's how that thing started.
So this is, I actually love this. So Trong is what I would call an accidental exporter. And we hear this over and over again. But the key thing is he had a product that had, that was an excellent product and had demand. And interestingly, both social media for both Sarah, she mentioned that social media plays a part of her growth strategy. Social media clearly played a part of Trong's strategy because through social media, people found out about it. And I love the story of suddenly in my PayPal account, you got money, you got money, you got money. How many of you would like to have that happen to you today? Okay. Yeah. So now, question just for both of you. What percentage, Sarah, of Sarah Silk revenue is from exporting? Just roughly.
Well, in our wholesale B2B, it's 60%. In our direct to customer, so B2C, it's 10, and on Amazon, it's 10.
Okay.
It's really significant. So I guess company-wide, it's maybe like 20.
All right. So significant percentage of their total top line revenue comes from international business, either B2B or direct to consumer. Trong, same question for you.
Well, I think overall our business, if we consider selling in the US market and seeing the rest of the world, probably 60-40, 60 US and about 40 international.
Right. And so you can see for both of these businesses, right, it's a significant piece of revenue. I'm going to make a brief pitch here. Part of the reason to think about this as you're building a business is that diversification of revenue can help you survive downturns in a single market. If one market is down, frequently you'll find out that other markets are strong and still thriving. So let me ask you that. Have you seen that, Sarah, that what different parts of the world at times are run? Can you share any experience around that?
Well, right now, Europe is really struggling and really, really down. But US is doing great. And we've had times where Australia was doing fantastically and the US was down. So we've definitely seen that over time.
Trong, have you seen that shift in markets as well?
Yeah, we don't see that as much as Sarah because I guess we're just a small and niche market. But I would say that in the US for us, the trend of home brewing as a hobby in the US actually is trending downward. Partially, I think, because we have so many craft breweries around. So and then also the old-fashioned way of brewing beer takes so much work, and you can get a pint of beer anywhere, a good pint of beer around the corner. So why have to spend all day and all this money making beer? So that thing trending down, but we're gonna change it. They didn't know that we're gonna fix it. We're gonna make home brewing the new home cooking.
Okay, so now there's another characteristic that you can see in both Sarah and Trong. There's an unending belief in optimism that they are going to be able to do this.
But let me finish my thing. But meanwhile, overseas, like in Europe, in Northern Europe, like Norway, those countries brewing continue to go strong, partially because the alcohol taxation is so high over there, like in Australia. And then in Asia, young people start picking up the hobby of brewing beer, like in Thailand and India, and in those countries, it's actually illegal to brew beer, but they're doing it anyway because I do at home, and they love my stuff, and they're gonna love it more with the new home cooking that they're getting.
Nice. So an interesting thing. One of the things I just want to point out, Trong actually called out what I would call a driver of his business. And that is the fact, and he's absolutely right, in the Nordic countries, taxes on alcohol are extremely high. The Norwegians, for example, will take and they'll get on cruise ships that will go from Oslo to Copenhagen and back because there's no taxes on the alcohol on the water. Seriously, this is actually, I've been on those cruises going to and from the two countries for business, and they're filled with Norwegians. And so his business is taking advantage of that, and he's feeding into what I would call a market force that helps him to be successful. So just one of the things to think about. So let's go on. So let's go back to supply chain, because I know both of you, not only are you exporting, but you also are importing to make your product. So Trong, let's start with you. Can you tell us what your supply chain looks like, both domestically made product and imported product?
Well, our strategy here is that when we do a product, it has to be really the best in the world. So, and then we design it here, we actually prototype here, and we contract manufacturing the components in China, in Vietnam, and they ship those parts to here, to us in California, and we assemble here and we ship out. We also make sure that we use key component made in the United States, so that they cannot get anywhere else. So our products are always say made in USA, because the value of our product is actually more than 50% come from the US. And I think that's so. People overseas love American product, just like when we see a product made in Japan, made in Italy, made in Germany, we just think they're great. And over there, they see product made in America is great. So, and of course, there are always challenges with people in China try and copy our product and so on and so forth, but they cannot copy the made in USA part. So that is our leg up, and we make really good products. So that's how our strategy supply chain changes.
Sure. And so where do you import? So your raw parts, though, you have some that are made here in the United States. Others are imported from where?
From China and Vietnam.
Okay, so China and Vietnam. So he's got three countries that are involved in his supply chain, right? And then he's turned around and exporting those products also globally into the domestic US market, right? Small business. Sarah, now you mentioned something about your supply chain. Can you go into a little more depth? So you get your silks out of China and?
Yeah, we've been working with one vendor in China for, I think, 28 years. And it's a wonderful relationship we have with them. The silk is from China, so it feels really nice. But now we have 3 silk vendors in China, and we have the doll makers in India, and we have a cotton manufacturer in India. So we're importing from China and India. And then all of our woven toys are made in California. But it has been really tricky. And during the pandemic, when the ships were all at sea, it was very hard to get product. And then the air shipping got really tricky, because, it was definitely difficult, the supply chain issues. We could get the product made, but we couldn't get it here quickly enough. So, and another thing that problem we've had is the safety testing and customs issues with importing, because toys and a lot of things, I imagine, there are a lot of different regulations in different industries, but we sometimes get things held in customs and for months, and we don't even know why, and we've had to, deal with those issues. Not usually, but those are occasional problems.
And you're saying you've had them held by US Customs when you're importing?
Yes, and then it's the Consumer Product Safety Commission that takes them, and then they take a very long time to decide whether they're safe or not, because they decide to safety test them themselves to verify our paperwork.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned both air and ocean. Do you typically ship containerized or, on the water, or do you typically import your product via air cargo?
Yeah, we used to only ship by ocean because it was so much less expensive, but during the pandemic, we switched to air, and now we just stick with air because it's not that much, silk is light. Mm-hmm. It's not that much more expensive, and it's so much faster. And we're growing a lot, so we need our inventory fast. And the ships are taking too long. We currently have some little children's toy suitcases at sea, and they've been in sea for like 3 months or something. Whereas the air shipments come in 3 weeks.
Right, absolutely. Now, when you import, Trong, are you using air cargo, or how do you import?
We're still small right now, and our product are very light, and the component we get is also light, so we bring them all by air. And it's amazing. We can get product shipped like we got them in a few days, you know, for our favorite shipper, DHL, you know, we got them there pretty quickly and we assemble them and we ship out, yeah, from here.
Great. So you can see, once again, the point is that both businesses are relying on importing a product for supply chain to make finished goods that they're turning around then and exporting to be, a part of their overall product. Okay, I really can't open my phone so I can look at my notes. Just give me a second. Okay. When you think about what has been really key to being successful in international business, can you give us a couple of examples of things that have really helped you? Trong, let's start with you.
Well, I think the key thing in be successful in business, for us, business is everywhere, it's global. We don't, in our mind, we don't think it import or export. So we make product for the world. And because of that, we have to make the best products. And in order to make the best product, we have to be aware, we in tune, we have a good student of what happened in that particular industry. And we understand that at the elemental level, and then we create solution for that kind of problem. And we bring product that the people would benefit from it immensely. And that is the key driver for being successful in business or in exporting business. It's fairly easy nowadays because of social media. When you do something good, somebody's going to use it, somebody's going to write about it, and everybody's going to read about it. And next thing you know, there are ways for them to access your product through e-commerce like eBay or Amazon. And then so you can be a small guy and be exporting a product all day long. And of course, when you get bigger, you start having, next thing you know, you have dealers in those countries write you, ask you, can I buy your product and sell your product? And we love to do that because fairly easy. We don't have to deal with import and export tariff duty. We let them handle that thing. We just charge them so much. And nice thing about it, pay before shipment. All those guys, we love that part. We don't have term. If you want to buy our product, you pay it and we ship.
What was the line from the movie? Show me the money?
Yeah.
Right. So I heard three things there. One, it was build a truly world-class product, that you have the mindset that really business is global. It's not about business in the United States, it's about business opportunity. And that you absolutely have, once again, mentioned social media as a part of your kind of overall growth strategy. And we'll come back to that a little bit more. Sarah, what would you say have been kind of some of the keys for you?
Well, I agree with the social media. I think it's very important. Supporting the shops that we have internationally is important. We send customers to them as well because they're promoting, they're marketing our products for us in those countries. Shopify is fantastic because it does all the customs forms and the duty and all the fees. So being on Shopify is terrific. If you're doing wholesale, I love Bear for wholesale because it's the same thing. They're taking care of things. People feel very safe shopping on Bear. I guess.
No, that's great. And let's actually dive a little deeper because both of these businesses are what I would call cross-border e-commerce. So how many people in here have bought something and it was shipped to you from China or India or Canada or the UK? Show of hands, right? We all have. During COVID accelerated cross-border e-commerce globally, 3 years of growth in the first 3 months of COVID during the shutdown. It's now somewhere around $2.2 trillion annually. It's massive. And one of the great things about it is it is possible for many businesses, including small businesses, to diversify revenue through cross-border e-commerce and to market and sell to a global world. Now, Sarah mentioned a couple of really key things. So you use Shopify, you're a Shopify Plus customer, right? So tell us the difference, what that Shopify Plus really does for you.
Well, for one thing, it gives us Shopify help whenever there's anything wrong with the website. We go to Shopify experts. We always have help through Shopify. it does other things and I'm not exactly sure because I'm not our webmaster, but it definitely, I think we can use some different apps that we could use. Like we have an upsell app that's great. We have a subscription program. So we have a subscription app. Ever since we switched to Shopify Plus, it's been fantastic. Highly recommend.
Well, and some of the things that Shopify does, and there's a lot of e-commerce platforms out there, cross-border e-commerce platforms. She mentioned that it takes care of the customs paperwork for them, the duties and taxes. And so there's this whole industry that's really grown up out there that makes it very easy to plug these solutions into your website or your store, or to use an integrated approach like Shopify. Shopify is probably one of the most integrated of the vendors out there that handles that cross-border aspect for you and really simplifies it. And then you advertise online, but and people can pay you credit card or however, but you just wind up with US dollars in your account, right?
Yes, and we can put a setting so that they see the currency of their country when they're shopping if we want to. And Shopify also has the ability, Shopify Plus, I don't know if all Shopify does, to set so that we can put a pop-up in their country, just specifically in their language. There's a lot of customization options on Shopify. We don't currently have it set to their currency because it was causing a lot of confusion on the anyway, it's a long story, but they have it set to US dollars.
Okay, and US dollars is very common, so that's an actually very common strategy, is to take and to advertise in US dollars. And people, very cross-border shoppers internationally, are not strangers to US dollar pricing. Now, it is nice if you can, and things like Shopify do offer those tools if you want to take and localize. Trong, and now Sarah, one other question, because you also sell on Amazon as well.
Yeah, we are only on Amazon UK, Canada, and Australia. But Amazon UK sells into Europe, so that's good. We haven't tried yet. That's as far as we've gotten, and mostly it's inventory issues that we haven't gone farther into, but we plan to in the future.
Right, so Sarah, you can see that Sarah Silk is taking what I would call a multi-channel approach to cross-border e-commerce. They've got their own website, they've got the Shopify, and they're also selling on Amazon, right? So they're taking advantage of multiple channels to be able to get their product in front of people, and using social media to help drive people to those locations where they can buy and transact, right? This is a great classic strategy for cross-border e-commerce. Trong, now, tell us about your e-commerce. How are you set up and what are your main approaches?
My e-commerce is really, remember, I'm really still a startup, okay? So I'm not doesn't have 30 years of experience like Sarah does, but I have a lot of fun. And I'm really only starting selling all these things like in the last 2 years or so. So mostly my e-commerce website at the beginning was just eBay. And I did so well that actually eBay gave me a grant for $10,000 and sent a movie team to New York, to Sacramento to film me, because I'm different than eBay. So most seller on eBay, they just buy things, use and sell it. I make things and I sell it. So people have to come to me from all over the world to buy my products, and they was impressed with that. So they want to promote that theme. So that's what fun. So, and about a year ago, I selling real well on eBay, and I started having dealers who contact me from European country, in Australia, in South America, South Africa, in Thailand. So I sell to those dealers, and then I start dabble in Amazon, and I'm actually building up Amazon really fast, because you know how it is on Amazon. There's a lot of competition. Everybody sell basically the same thing, and everybody fighting what Amazon called the buy box. And you look at the screen, the thing on the right-hand side, that's called the buy box. And if you get your thing listed on the buy box, 80% of the product is sold through the buy box. And for me, because my product is so wacky, so different, all my product have the buy box. So it's nice. It's growing that way. So I have my e-commerce go to eBay right now and Amazon, but amazingly, what I found there is Amazon take over a lot of my sales from eBay because, it's a better kind of customer for my product. It's not an arbitrage, kind of buy and resell old used stuff.
Right. And so, Trong is very much leveraging that. You do have your own website,
Yes.
but the bulk of your sales really are going through Amazon.
Through Amazon and through dealers.
Right. And through dealers. And so once again, we do, it's eBay, it's Amazon, and it's a dealer network. So once again, it's a multi-channel approach to getting product in people's hands internationally. So what's been the biggest challenge that you've had with exporting? Sarah, we'll go back to you.
Well, at first, whenever we try to work with distributors, it hasn't worked out. So that seems to be something that a lot of other brands do. And it doesn't work because we don't have enough margin. And distributors want a cut. They want we could only give them like a 15% discount off of our wholesale price, and that isn't enough for most of them. And that causes problems for some stores, especially in Germany. There's certain countries where the stores are reluctant for some reason, to buy directly from us. They're worried about customs fees or dealing with the safety testing issues. So that's tricky to convince them. And I wish we could have a distributor in Germany, for example, for that. Let's see, what was the question? What have been the
Yeah, what's a challenge?
Challenge? Yeah, so that's a challenge. Most people seem to speak English, so we really haven't had. We have a few, we have a great customer service team, and sometimes we get messages in other languages, but Google Translate. That used to be more of a problem, but Google Translate seems to be good. Let's see, I had a list. Let me see if I have lost packages, but that's getting better too. Occasionally we get customs issues, customs extra fees being charged, but that's really good. Shopify's just been working those things out, because if we have it, other Shopify shops have it. Really, it's really just the distributor thing. And I don't think trade shows are worth it. We've tried trade shows. I'm sure they're worth it for some people. They're incredibly expensive, really exhausting, and so we don't do them.
No, so a couple of great points. One, I will tell you, I think that depending on the market you're in, and if you are shopping for potential distributors, trade shows can be good. You don't necessarily have to exhibit, but go and walk the floor and look for potential partners. That can be a strategy to take. Sarah, you talked about distributors and the margin with them. Can you kind of just give an overview of that structure? Because there's really, in your case, you're the manufacturer, the exporter. You've got a distributor that's the middleman that then is selling to stores, correct?
Yes.
Right.
So we do have distributors. We have a distributor in Singapore, Korea, and Israel, because those are three countries that we can't find stores in and we don't know how to. So oftentimes we'll start with the distributor and we'll work out some kind of system with them where usually it's best for us if the distributor themselves are also selling direct to customers and they're a big customer in their country, because then the smaller discount will work well for them. I forget what the question was already, but generally it doesn't work because usually distributors want 30% off the wholesale price, and that can't work for us. We just don't have a big enough margin.
Right, and so, but she's figured out a strategy how to deal with that. And so, what you're saying is your strategy is that you're not going to work with that distribution layer, and instead you're really trying to find direct stores or dealers in country that cut out that distribution layer. Means a little more work for you, but ultimately you develop the distribution network and you get your product to market with margins that are viable for all sides.
Yeah, and Fair has been just fantastic. I don't know if y'all know what Fair is, but it's a wholesale marketplace and it's international, and it is so good for us. We've just been growing a lot that way.
Fed. All right. So Tron, how about for you, challenges with exporting? Well, I know a couple of them you've told me.
Yeah, well, I think for me, so far, nothing really difficult about exporting any challenges, just basically learning the system, having the right kind of setting up some country, like when we sell a particular to Amazon, because our product shipped to those countries, so we have to clear the product, enter into the country. So we have to have certain kind of taxations and business numbers set up with that country before we ship in. But there are experts out there that can help us with that. For me, the challenge of exporting is really learning. I'm new at this, so it's a learning process. But I want to echo what Sarah said about distributor. Like a year ago, one of my dealers in Europe went to a big trade show in Germany, and then he talked about, man, I got this product from this guy from Sacramento, sell a lot. So that guy happened to be the biggest beer equipment distributor in the world from New Zealand. And he contacted me. He wanted, hey, I want to be your distributor. And then I have another guy from Belgium I want to be a distributor from your product in Europe. And both of these guys, the number one and number two, want to sell my products, but they want to be distributor. But the problem with Sarah said, at the distributor level, you have to give them a huge amount of discount, because they would use that discount to sell to dealers, and then the dealer would sell to the consumer. But distributors, sometimes they can sell directly to customer, and they sell to dealer. And so therefore, they ask for a lot of margin, even though they only sell to dealer is very small percentage, but they want a huge discount. So we took us a long time to make a decision. God, we little guy, we have these two big company want to buy from us. So what should we do? In the end, we decided that we don't want distributor. The only thing that we sell is to dealers. And so that we don't have to give so much discount, we do direct. And the dealers just love it. Dealers hate to do with distributors. So then now we have a good relationship with our dealers. But then in the future, I think the future growth for us is really direct to consumer through e-markets, e-commerce market like Amazon and so on and so forth. And that would be our strategy. The dealers are helpful in that they're kind of a beachhead that create their own, when they get our product, they create their website, they create their blogs, and they talk about that. So when you go on the website, you Google, you search our product, you see that our product listed in Norway, Thailand, all these things. It sounds cool because you see a whole bunch of them, talking about the same product. But I think all those things are really fixable. The key thing is have the product that's really the best for everyone, and they could not find elsewhere.
All right. Let me ask this question. Have there been any, what I would call, I know that when I was learning to export and building international business teams, there were a number of times when I went like, oh, okay, now I get it, or kind of what I would call aha moments. Have there been any aha moments that stand out for either of you? Sarah, how about you first?
Maybe ask Sean first. I'm not sure.
Okay, fair enough.
This is okay. I read your question. I was thinking about what is the aha moment. So this may not be directly applied to you, but I want to give you my two aha moments come from two perspectives. One from the bottom up, one from the top down. So when I started my business I mentioned earlier, in making croissant, that would require sophisticated machine to make perfect laminated dough. And we had to go find those equipment overseas. So we went to trade show, and in Europe, they have a huge trade show. One of the bakery trade shows that take you days, and you run and you see it in order to cover the whole things. And one of the trade show I went to in Hamburg, and I went downstairs, one of the level downstairs, and then under the kind of halfway under the staircase, there was one lonely Japanese guy with a little table, and he sell and of course everybody's trade show is humongous trade show. They give free food, free everything, and this guy just one little table under the halfway in the staircase because that's all he could afford. But he was selling perforated silicone baking trays, and I thought that was really cool because I never saw that anywhere. And I saw that thing, so I got his product and I bought some product. After buying his product, And then a few years later, I went to another big bakery show in Las Vegas, and he has a huge booth there, and he's selling everybody in the world. So that was like, wow. And then in my mind, I said, that little guy behind the staircase that I saw a few years ago selling a product that I recognize, and now become just a huge play in the business. So that, I think, is the bottom up. And then another similar story, aha moment for me, in related to international export and so on and so forth, is the same thing that I have to go to the trade show to look for the equipment. And I see these advertising, this company that's selling big, massive products in all over the country, all over the world. So I thought, wow, this must be a huge company. So I want to buy their product. So after one of the trade show in Munich, I went to their factory in Northern Holland. So just wanted to see it. So I went ahead to that. Finally, I realized that factory is actually in the countryside, in this middle of winter. So by the time I get my taxi, get into this countryside, that's a small place. And I walk in there and there's nobody around. It was noontime. And then I walk to the back and I see everyone in the back was just skating on the little frozen lakes. And that little company I thought in my mind, this must be a huge company that sell only product export, the fat, advanced product, bakery product all over the world, turned out to be a very small company. and then that I end up buying that product. So that I see, well, you can be really big in the world business. This just depends on what you have, not how big you are.
Right. I think the other thing that's interesting is just the power of perception.
Yeah.
Right. That's clearly a part of it also. It's what you project your company as. You don't have to be a giant company to have people look at you and go like, wow, you're world class at what you do. I think that would be one of the takeaways I would get from that. Sarah, did anything occur to you? And if not, we can move on.
I have just a quick thing to say is that I think that trying to be culturally sensitive is important. And I know that I can come across as quite American, especially to Europeans, and that could be offensive. Just in different cultures, I think it's important to listen. Sometimes maybe as much or more than you talk. So, because the people's values in different places are different and their goals are different. And I think maybe like our whole Black Friday thing that's going on, we have an incredibly aggressive Black Friday sale going on right now. That's not necessarily what a beautiful small store in Germany is going to find appealing. That's just a small example. So I think I've learned to be less, what is the word, ethnocentric? When zooming and talking to shops and customers around the world. That's it, Kevin.
No, I think that's a great one. And I would have to tell you that some of my biggest aha moments were also around understanding the difference in how people do business. And I think Sarah was really, because she said it's about understanding what's important to the business that you're trying to help work with and really speaking to their interests. I think that's a huge insight. All right, last question, and then we'll open it up for questions from others. If you were going to get started, if you had one or two suggestions for someone who is going to get started exporting, what would they be? Tron, we'll start with you.
I think I may have said it several times. Learn the area where you want to work in really, really well, and learn what other people around the world doing, playing the same players in that field, and come up with the best products. And of course, to come up with, I call it the N word. You have to be new, nifty, novel. And if you are new, nifty, novel, you're probably in the niche market, which means your customer base is pretty small to understand what you're doing. So you need to go to a bigger marketplace. And we have it right now, thanks to e-commerce and social media. We have Amazon and we have social media that we can find those, special customer that in your niche and grow from there. I think be very, very good at what you do.
Great, thank you. Sarah?
I have to almost 100% agree with that. Believe in your product and figure out your niche market and talk to your people. Talk to the people who are going to care about it in the US and internationally. Talk to them, email them, talk to them on social media. I'm also a big believer in Shopify. Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to summarize go ahead, Charlie.
I want to add one more thing that, to be in an American business, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that in American culture, we are very good with retail customer service. And that kind of not really known overseas. Like in Europe, when you go store, you buy something, you walk out of the store, you cannot come back and return. You can walk right back, don't let you return. In America, you can return in 30 days, you see. And if they have any problem, they can call you and you respond right away. In Europe or in other countries, they're not the same. So when the European people call me for customer service, I just take time to talk to them. I do FaceTime, show them how to work, and they just go banana over that thing.
Great. Well, thank you both so much. We've got a few minutes left, so I'm going to open it up for any questions anybody might have. Don't be shy.
Okay, I can be a good expert. Look at me. I didn't know jack about this stuff a few years ago.
I'll ask Sarah a question.
Yeah.
Over in Europe, Sarah, do you have manufacturers' reps looking after you or the relationships with dealers? Or do you do everything from the US?
We do everything ourselves from the US. I have a wholesale manager here. She's great, and so she reaches out directly to the stores. And we have tried working with rep groups before, but we haven't had any better luck because oftentimes they have many brands, that they're repping for, and that our brand doesn't get a lot of attention from them. So we haven't really, it hasn't been super successful for us. Good question.
Other questions? All right, so then just kind of quick summary from both of you. Any parting comments, last things that you want to share? Charlie,
I
start.
don't know if any of you already have businesses or I don't know who you all are. Does anyone have a business that you want to tell me about? I'm curious. You don't have to, but.
So how many people in here? So I know that there's a mixture of folks in here. Do we have any entrepreneurs? I know, right?
Yeah. What's your business? What kind of business do you have?
I move money international.
Oh, wow. Good business to be in.
Yeah, actually, just quick. Currency markets, currency exchange dwarfs every other market on the planet on a daily trading basis. So.
That's a cool business.
Yeah.
Are you Wise? You know Wise?
I've been kicked out of Wise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, so then I'm going to just summarize. So really key things here. Both of them are leveraging cross-border platforms, Amazon, eBay, Shopify, that have lots of built-in tools to help cross-border e-commerce happen very seamlessly. Social media has been a key piece for both of them in building their business because they can speak to the people that are interested in that, their market, their product, and to speak to that lifestyle. That's a really important part. Social media combined with your Shopify, combined with your website, those things are all kind of a virtuous cycle. And you can see that both of them are really taking advantage of that. Both of them have modified their business approaches to skip a middle level of distribution. And they're trying to either go direct to consumer or to a dealer directly in market. And that's a margin calculation that both of them have done and said that the financials of this, the margins of this require that we take and we go to a dealer or direct to consumer. And they both have built out that approach to where they've got this two-tiered approach to getting their product into market. So you can see, even though one is selling, absolutely gorgeous, you guys should go on both of their websites. Sarah's has got some really fun products. I've got a new 3-month-old grandson. I will be shopping with Sarah soon. Very different markets, but you can see that in products, but they really have similar approaches and they're leveraging similar strategies to be successful with both their supply chains and their export.
I have a question, Kevin, and apologies if you went over it in the beginning. I arrived a little bit late. I think some other people did too. How does your organization help entrepreneurs?
Sure. So we're really a technical assistance provider. My background, I'm an engineer by education. I found a 12-step program and figured out I was actually a lot better in international business, and that was really my love. I spent 24 years in the education technology world, building international distribution and sales networks, and found out I loved it. And what we do is we help businesses that want to do international business by really providing education, resources, or connections. And so some of it's just very nuts and bolts. You know, how do you fill out export documentation? How do you get started on a Shopify account? Or, you know, what's my harmonized code? So very much what I would call that technical assistance and coaching to help someone figure out how to either import or to export.
And how would people contact your organization if they needed help?
You can come up and get my business card, and I'd be happy to give it to you, or you contact World Trade Center in Northern California, and either myself or my colleague Kimberly Vittel, who also has a very strong international business background. We're really through the two of us, we can help marry you to subject matter experts that can help you. Some examples, I've been coaching a small manufacturer in San Jose on export documentation. We've got one shipment already completed to Australia. We'll have an ocean or a container on the water here in the next 3 weeks or so. And so we're helping him actually structure the deal, get the paperwork, get the product, you know, help him to understand how to actually get that all together and then out the door. So that's really the approach, Laura.
And one other thing, there's like a U.S. world, what's the group that helps with import-export, but it's a federal agency?
So on the federal side, there are a number of folks that are really focused mostly on export, and that's going to be the U.S. Commercial Service, the Department of Commerce, and we do have commercial service folks here in town. The Small Business Administration also does quite a bit. They focus really on working capital for people exporting. The Export-Import Bank also does working capital, but they also do what are called export guarantees. So let's say that Sarah wanted to start giving just willy-nilly, she's going to start giving open credit terms to everybody on the planet to drive sales growth. She could get a credit guarantee product from XM that would provide insurance in case that somebody didn't pay her. So there are those types of programs out there. The U.S. government doesn't do a lot in terms of helping importers. It's far more interested in the economic development and supporting U.S. jobs through exporting. But if somebody's interested in importing, we also can help with that. We actually are working with a woman who's got a startup business in the Bay Area importing food snacks from Vietnam. And so we're actually helping her on the import side as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Well, with that, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. Trom, why don't we give them both a round of applause?
Thank you for being here. And if you're ever curious to see what the heck is this guy have what the world crazy about, you can come up here, I'll show you.
Thank you. Nice seeing you all.
Thank you, Sarah.
Bye.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for an awesome panel. Our next session will be at 2:00. We will be tackling into commercializing your research. So from moving from the lab to market. So I'll be taking place same room at 2:00. But thank you all again for the awesome discussion. So
Great.
We'll give them one more round.
Thank you, Kim.
Karen, do you need help?
Well done, Trump. Did you bring your gizmos?
Yeah, I'll bring some of the stuff that I sell.
You mentioned business. Yeah, let me grab my,